My plan is working out to perfection. 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 That fool Borisov will soon be dead. The golden crown will be mine. The Jews will pay me a fortune in ransom for their scrolls. And I shall finally be Duke.
Okay, the story of the Golden Crown, written and directed on audio by a legend in Jewish music, Amy Rockford. And I've always known, and people I bump into have have two different reactions. Some of them go, Golden Crown, I remember it growing up, it was a great CD. And there's some that say, I don't know, I never heard of that.
Yeah, I'm going to be in the second. I'll be in the second group. I've heard of it, but I never actually listened to it.
So funny because people, I guess, but we grew up with it. It's, of course, we heard the Midos Machines and all the great classics from AB. This was a single, didn't come in a series. It's a one-time story. I remember years ago when AB released it, he was interviewed on the radio, and the way he classified it was, this is your basic Pirche story on a tape.
Wow.
So that's how really he looked at it when he when he released it, and together with Shmuel Klein, who was the Dr. Midos, the voice of Dr. Midos, it said on the tape that they directed it together. And I've always viewed this CD as the most perfect, the most professional Jewish production that I know.
Really?
Yes.
Wow, that's incredible.
The acting was perfect, the production, the quality of the sound. It was Hollywood level production. That's the way I viewed it. And if I was ever to go ahead and make an animated film, this was something that I would want to do.
And you sent me the film yesterday. I saw it, my kids saw it, we saw it again. We all absolutely loved it. It was really I cannot begin to understand how you created personally a full-length feature 3D film. My mind, is not getting around that because I know how much work it takes to create every 10 seconds of film. What's the ratio approximately? Like, what would you say per minute?
The ratio per minute on how long it takes to create?
Yeah.
I haven't done the math, but it's been 2.5 years of straight work to get this done.
Wow.
Yeah. And actually, it's not like I've been doing it full time because I even still kept a job in the afternoon. I was teaching in late 8th grade and in a high school 10th grade later in the day. But I was up late hours, sometimes 3, 4 a.m.
Yeah, I'm familiar with those artist hours, yeah.
Yes. And
wow.
Yeah, I can't. One day I should just take the calculator and figure out exactly what it comes out to per minute. It's a 60, basically a 60-minute film. It's 57 and some seconds to film.
Yeah, it's a full-length feature film. And this is the type of thing that like 200 people in Disney work on for a year straight in order to create. That's the equivalent. I don't know if people understand what 3D means, that every single leaf in that thing has to be created and lit and animated and all put together and rendered. It's just, it's mind-blowing.
Right. Anyone who knows anything about the process of making 3D animated films would definitely appreciate what it entails and what has gone into making this.
Yeah.
I would say that from the first time I ever laid eyes on a 3D software program, I saw what this was, that you could take, make movement in the scene, you can build. I didn't have a full grasp of it, but when I laid eyes on it, I understood right away. In my mind, something blinked and it said, do you realize that it's theoretically possible for one artist to make a full film?
Right, in the theoretical world, right.
In live action, what you need a cameraman, you need production people, you need props, and you need the guys who do the sound and the guys who do the lighting, and you need a team of people. You also, by the way, need the weather to cooperate. I was once on a set with Revy Hill, and let me tell you, once you could have everyone show up that day, no one call in sick, and then the weather doesn't cooperate.
Very familiar, yes.
Have to fall into place. So many things have to work together, and there's so many dynamics, different things with live action film. And in 3D animation, it's a slower process. You're building scene after scene, creating backgrounds, animating the people, creating the characters, sketching out what is this guy going to look like, all of that work. But it's really, in a certain way, there's a process, and you're able to, just do it methodically, step by step, have the people you need there, the camera, and things like
Right.
that.
Right. And you have total control ultimately over every single, micro movement. Everything is in your control. So it's not a matter of getting the right shot.
Exactly. But it is because so many things along the way. First of all, every shot, I can tell you like a little diary, a little history for each shot that we did that had some technical problem, and I couldn't figure out why isn't this working? It's supposed to work. I followed all the, and it's just everything comes with a story. Everything comes.
Wow, that's incredible. So there's stories inside of the story, just the behind the scenes of making that every scene. Absolutely. And what I really like, what I took away personally, and I want to talk to you in a minute about the actual story itself, but at a certain point, I felt myself getting immersed in the environment, and that's like the winning. It's like a story moment. When your brain switches click into story mode, that's when I knew that this was something very special, because it was actually towards the end, I think, of the video where they're walking Friday night to shul at some point in the shtetl. They're walking through, and I'm like, this is really cool. This was like people walked Friday night to shul in the shtetl. I never, for years, for centuries, people were walking with their kids Friday night through the shtetl, and this is probably what it felt like a little bit. It was a very, very cool feeling. It was really amazing. Then I asked my son, a 9-year-old son, I'm like, what did you like most about it? And he's like, I like the plot. I like how, the story pulled people in, and he felt drawn into the story. And then my daughter liked the characters. So it's so interesting that everyone had a little, everyone saw it from their perspective. But just in terms of the technical accomplishment that's pretty mind-blowing. Did you have any, you did any India team type of thing just to do the nothing? All out of your hands?
I will tell you everything was in my hands. I knew at one point, from when I started, in fact, when I first started, I don't know if you were able to identify, there's one scene, and it's not the first scene, because that's not how I started, but where things are a little rusty, not rusty, the word is not polished, a little rough around it. That's where I started. That's when I began, and I still didn't have the total command over it. I still don't consider myself that I have total command over animation, but I didn't have it. So you can see that part. It's the scene where the kids show up to their Zadie's house, and they're not.
Interesting.
So starting there, some of the animation, some of the movements are a little choppy, and they're not.
It's ironic as you're saying the word animated movements that you froze there, but okay, go ahead.
Right. Yeah. Something I had to pound.
I was just saying the irony of it, but yeah, I understand. Some movements at that point were a little bit choppy, and then it got smoother.
Yeah, it got smoother, and then I got better. But as I was creating it, I said, I know I'm going to have to put crowds into the scene. I'm going to have to put a congregation. I'm going to have to put soldiers. So I said, I'm going to have to look, and I wasn't even sure where to look. I had to find some software that does crowd simulation. And let me tell you something. I got my hands on a package. I delved into it. I read all of that, like everything else. I didn't take any courses in animation. Everything I got from online, because I didn't have time now to do it all. I'm not 18 years old. I didn't get to go to college to learn it. But there's so much available online and in YouTube and other places. If someone really wants to get themselves an education in any area, I'm pretty sure you can really do it. It's a little harder.
You can become a brain surgeon now from YouTube, pretty much. Yeah, there's no limit. I don't know if I would recommend it, but you could. Yeah, theoretically.
Theoretically.
Yeah.
So I dove into the instruction manual of the crowd simulation software, and learning that was almost as hard as learning the whole Maya, because there's just so many concepts.
Wow. I was going to ask you used Maya, 3D Max, or Maya?
Maya.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yes, I noticed the crowd scene. It's also very impressive. And I think the first time I saw the base medrash, most of the people looked replicated, but the second time there was more diversity. Was that true, that there's a difference in the scenes?
Yeah, because I eventually realized, I picked up on it, that you could randomize some of the faces, and you can randomize the clothing. You could randomize things, and I didn't have that in the beginning.
That's so interesting.
I realized you could do this stuff, and if I really wanted to go further ahead, if the budget would have allowed, I would have done even more with that, having more randomization, look totally like everyone looks different. but it's not always really necessary. And of course, the limited budget. I don't have the $90 million that
Right. Right.
when they produce Frozen or whatever.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I definitely, yeah, I mean, like I said, my brain is just blown that you managed to do it at all. It's just incredible. What I find like is a really amazing challenge when I start learning something technically, a new skill. I feel like it's very easy to get caught in the skill and forget the story and the art because you're so into the technical parts. You geek out on all the technical things you can get away with, and then you're not editing in terms of final result and story. But I really felt the story come through beautifully here. So can you summarize really quickly what the story was? What's the story of the Golden Crown? What's this about?
Okay, over 300 years ago.
And is this a true story, by the way, or it's based on a general? It's not. Okay.
Nah. But this is the classical Jewish medieval community sitting and living in some village that's really owned and controlled by the Duke. And they're at the mercy of the Goyim that, whether or not they're going to have an easy and good life is all dependent. Right. So 300 years ago, okay, the Jewish community living in a little village of Caravan, in the great kingdom of Boldania, there's suddenly a knock in the middle of the night on the rabbi's door.
Rebbe, please, open the door. It's urgent. Rebbe, please, open the door.
And that knock is an urgent matter that thrusts the entire community into a crisis.
Rebbe Yitzchak, my dear Shamis, what brings you here so late at night? Come in from the cold. I'll get you a warm glass of tea.
It's an emergency.
Rebbe, there's no time. I must tell you.
Yitzchak!
There's a meeting, everyone comes running to the rabbi's house, discussing what to do. And that's basically the story. The Golden Crown is something happens, and the community has to figure out how to solve this problem, how to deal with it. And the Rav has to come up with a plan with using his brilliant wit and wisdom. And it's very dramatic. It's full of suspense. It's also full of charm. And all
right,
this,
I noticed that.
And now it's all the talent of A.B. Rottenberg and the story writer. It has songs in it, and each one of the songs is brilliant. It's brilliantly written, perfectly worded, great music, original songs from A.B., and it really sweeps you away. And it really gives people an appreciation and a feeling for just the cozy, wonderful, and very devoutly pious religious community in ancient times, how it was.
Yeah, exactly.
And one of the things I love about this production also is I find in Jewish films, a lot of times, the whole world has been built on a certain dose of satire. And they have to make fun of things. Even very Jewish productions have always had to inject something silly. Sometimes they'll even always portray a rabbi as a little bit of a bumbling fool. I find that.
I know what you're saying. Yeah, maybe that's a little derivative of Fiddler on the Roof that somehow seeped in. Yeah.
Exactly. And you know what? It bothers me. It always bothered me a little bit. This film really takes that away completely. The rabbi is venerated and respected, and the community turns to him for just the way we want to view our rabbi.
Right. I love the rabbi character. That's actually, I told my daughter right away, that's my favorite character. Just in terms of how you presented it, how you animated it. But it's also not stereotypical. In other words, there's a certain charm and personality that comes through. It's not just, you didn't take it to the other extreme to make like a cookie cutter, a cardboard figure of a rabbi. He has personality, he has charm, but at the same time, you can see how he's respected and you can see his wisdom, and on the spot how he thinks of things. So that was really cool. I know exactly what you're saying.
So now you see, and this is all, the credit goes to A.B. Rottenberg, to the writers of the story.
And credit goes to you how you visually depicted it as well, of course.
It just made my job so much easier. Being able to to assume those characters, which is what you need to do. As soon as you get ready to actually animate those guys, and by the way, that comes after developing the character, meaning drawing the sketches, and then building it in 3D. Now you have him all dressed with all the color, his skin and his beard, whatever, and his coat. Now you got to act him. So before you do a scene, you actually stand up and say, well, how do I say that to a person? And then sometimes you realize, no, you don't overact. You kind of have to keep that more subtle. You realize you have to act it out. And every scene, every shot that's how it went. I stood up and I tried to act out those roles and those lines and see what's a natural way for a person to say this and to do this. Sometimes you have to think about blinking your eyes. Sometimes when you say something in a accentuate.
Yes, I noticed the blinks. I was watching it. Yeah, I noticed it because I was looking for it. You're not supposed to notice it, but I was looking for them and I saw that.
Right.
Yeah.
So these are all things I picked up along the way from various different places, whether it's a YouTube video from some instructor that let it out for free for you to be able to see how a little bit of lesson in animation and the importance of eye blinking and other things, gravity, movements. And
sure.
I've picked up along the way, and sometimes I feel it was mamish. It was like hashgacha, that just when I needed them and for what I needed.
Wow.
So little tips, little pieces of advice, little tricks that came into my lap as I was working that I said, why did I just get this tip or this trick? It just helps me in this situation right now. And it's just amazing to see. Because you can't learn everything. You can't learn. The animation is all encompassing, and it's obviously
it's endless. It's right.
It's cool. So I couldn't be everything, and this film isn't everything, but it's good.
Yeah, no, definitely, absolutely. I'd say 100%. It's good. It's professional, and then there are moments where it's like where it goes somewhere very special. That's the way I felt about it. There's no part of it that I saw that was super weak. It was overall great. And then you have some moments which are really like Hollywood quality, exceptional, in terms of animation, which was incredible, which speaks to your artistic skills also, because I think you can't fake that. As good as you are technically, like you understand light and shadow, you understand composition, and a lot of that I think came through as well. I love the scene with A.B. Rottenberg where you captured his look. That's incredible. That was like, wow. I would love to see, even on your website, some behind-the-scenes like character sketches and like the DVD extra portion.
Yeah.
Which I think that maybe at some point, if you have a chance to do that.
Definitely. It's something I would love to get to. I haven't been able to yet, but I think this conveation that you and I are having now is a little bit part of that. It's already
absolutely right.
So
right. Nice. The postscript. That's really incredible.
One thing I love about it also is that I find when something is really, really good, then when, like, for instance, when a book, we were discussing a book that everyone loved, but everyone loves something a little different about the book.
Right.
So, like, when something is really, really good, everyone's reading it, and then everyone afterwards, the reaction is different. I love this part, I love that part, and I'm seeing that a lot with this film. People who see it are saying, this was the part I really loved, and then I get a totally different reaction from someone else of a different part of it. So I like the variety, and I like that you're getting that kind of feedback.
Yeah, I think so. And I think what happens is that the end product becomes bigger. Life becomes bigger than itself. It becomes its own creature, and then it speaks to different people because of that. Because it's bigger than the sum of its parts. It's bigger than just, the animation or the character or the music, Raby Rottenberg, or the way you brought it out. It all comes together, and that experience, is very individual. That depends on the person, how you're coming at it. I also like the concept, like I've read in terms of animation, of something called the Erie Valley. Familiar with the Erie Valley? You've heard about that. So I was watching...
The Uncanny Valley.
The Uncanny Valley, that's what it is. Yeah, there you go, the Uncanny Valley. And I was looking for that because I know that's a common thing you'll find in personal animation. Very often personal animation will cross into there. When people are trying to make it too realistic, but I found that you avoided that, and that was also very impressive, especially like with the A.B. Rottenberg, with the more realistic characters. It just had a great, warm feel. And how did you get it in terms of the mouth alignment with the speech? So is that a program? Because that you literally do every mouth movement synchronized. Wow. Okay. That's like,
let me point
any
out
any chance I just ever had of becoming an animator just went out the window, because that ain't happening. I can't do that. I can't sit through that. That's
I will
incredible.
show you, if we get to sit down once, which I'm sure we will. I'll show you it. It's actually much more doable than you think. And what I will tell you, the probably one of the most enjoyable parts for me in animating was lip syncing. It was very methodical, and once you have you'll get the hang of it. It's actually just fun to do. You sit and
really
animates. Yes.
Wow.
That's what I would say. I mean, I could imagine there's certain people that that won't be able to tolerate that kind of work. Just like in anything,
Right.
careers, one guy says I can't work indoors. It's a different personality type.
For sure.
But that type of work for an artist, and I know like someone like you that can enjoy sitting at a desk and creating, I can see if you saw what it entailed, you may
you can get into the mode. It's almost like a safer writing. You probably get into the zone and then you're just doing it.
Yes, that's what it is. It's actually a lot of fun, and it makes things so it comes alive. The talk, the speech, and obviously, lip syncing isn't just the mouth moving up and down.
For
it's
sure.
the head moving in a certain direction and bringing out, emphasizing. I should point out that the animation, the movement was not done by any type of like motion capture, which is what some of studios are doing that a lot lately.
Right.
Have a character go in a room and there's this like
Sure.
The movements of those I always find is a little bit lacking. It's not
Interesting. Really?
Yeah, there's kind of like a weird type of a movement that never really gets head on. And I didn't use that type of, I didn't have that kind of studio. Everything was done hand animated movements, controlling the puppets.
Wow.
Yeah.
And were you able to access some like preset in terms of building the city or things like that? I mean, I know there definitely are out there a lot of assets to help just, to start off with. Obviously, it's not cheating. I know, how art works, but templates.
When it came to backgrounds, there were things I definitely downloaded and accessed a whole marketplace of buildings, homes. A lot of those stuff was stuff that I bought from online or even got for free. There are marketplaces that, houses and a lot of these props for the background, a lot of them I got from marketplaces online and downloaded. But and all characters were hand created. All the people, and anything and certain things that you just couldn't get from online.
Right.
They're safer Tyra really.
Right. Not just yet. Maybe you got to create the first 3D Jewish marketplace. But that's amazing. One thing I found very interesting about this story, I don't know if this was AB, because I didn't hear the original tape, but it switches back and forth from the children listening to the grandfather to this literary device, and this way they have a chance to answer like holes in the plot holes, which was really like, because I'm also an author and I write children's books and novels. So that part to me was a little, I wouldn't say sly is the wrong word for it, but it was a shrewd way of dealing with a lot of problems by having the children asking the question and then having the grandfather do it. That was his thing? You didn't create that, the back and forth?
I did not create that, and I did not deviate from the audio one iota.
Really? Wow.
CD.
That's so interesting that he did that. But it's cool, and it works ultimately, and it makes, it's a story within a story, which was nice. And then but you interpreted, obviously, the umbrellas, that opening sequence, that's all your conceptual interpretation of the story.
Yes.
Of the dancing bear, all those classics that come in there in the beginning.
Yeah.
A lot of fun. Yeah.
The ideas behind that had to be something that we created, that we had to draft a sketch and then storyboard what was going to happen. Mm-hmm. And some of it was creative, and some of them are like things that Einfall. It pops in your head. I have I'm starting to develop a certain belief about that anyway.
Okay.
I always would think of ideas as something that just pops in a person's head. And that's what always made it so difficult to conquer. Because, before I was doing this film, I was in graphics and marketing, so we have to come up with ideas and do. And it was intimidating because you're always, how do you just think of a good idea? A good idea it pops.
Right. My solution is showers. That seems to work inevitably. That's what it is. I don't give away all my secrets here, but I don't want to. Maybe there's something in the water in Detroit here that doesn't, but seems to work. But what do you got? What works for you? I
just find that it's a misconception to think that it has to pop. And I think when you think, you arrive at an idea. Mm-hmm. When you say, I have to come up with a marketing strategy for this and this company, and they need a great idea. So you need to sit down and start thinking. You start sketching and scribbling and let stream of consciousness let ideas write down things and let silly things pop up, but just eventually it's going to start making sense, and eventually you could arrive at what looks like a real chap, but it took time to get there.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. I look at it almost, it's exactly what you said, it's the sketching process, but in any context, there's sketching when it comes to marketing, and you're scribbling, and then somewhere in the scribble you sort of see half of an image, and then you shape that out into a face, and that was, very similar to what it is, but sometimes I find the ideas are so fleeting, you have to catch it by the tail. It's a little tiny whisper of something, you have to pull it out before it disappears, and that's the best idea. That's where you find it. But for sure, and I see how you interpreted everything here. That was really incredible to me too. I remember once reading with Pixar, they have a formula for stories. And this is almost textbook what happened here. So their formula for every Pixar or any story in general is once upon a time, and then suddenly, and because of that, until finally. That's pretty much every story that has ever existed fits into that formula. And that's, I'm trying to think here in terms of like character evolution, what changes here and who changes ultimately in this story. And it's interesting. I think, you're talking about cynicism or sarcasm. So one of the boys initially is somewhat sarcastic. Like, what does grandfather really have to offer? What is your grandfather, what type of story is your grandfather going to tell me that's relevant? And there's that character arc where, he starts to realize that there's a lot more here. And in some ways, that's a metaphor for the general, like connecting of generations. There's like, what does grandfather have to offer us? And then, wow, this is part of our tradition. This is part of our heritage. And that was a really nice note that I noticed overall in the story. And even watching my kid write it, I think there's some pride, there's some sense of connecting to something magical in our history, which was really beautiful. And I think you succeeded at bringing that out visually. That was a really nice part. So anyway, okay, got to wrap it up over here, but I definitely would love, I could talk to you for the next 3 days about this, because there's so many things in my head I'd love to know, just from a technical and artistic standpoint, so many accomplishments in that film. And it's like you said, you started off the film in one place, you ended it in another place, and now, God willing, your next film, I don't know if you're, ready and willing or hopping on, you're starting off already from where you ended with this one, which is just incredible to think. Are you thinking of doing another one? Would you think of bringing the team in with you for a second round, or also yourself?
Yes, all of those ideas have been,
percolating. Yeah.
And certainly, I don't have, I had ideas, but I don't have anything specific planned this minute. But of course, as this thing was progressing, we were talking about how what can come about because of it, and all, the future. There are ideas that are brewing. Let's just say. Right.
Perfect. The pot is bubbling.
Collaborating with a team, absolutely, getting more people on board to make it happen faster and better.
For sure, yeah. I mean, there are a lot of people now I know that work with overseas teams in terms of the technical, if you find something good, and there are different ways to go about that.
Right.
But that's really amazing, and it was a real honor to talk to you today. I'm looking forward to seeing you.
To have this conversation with
you. Yeah, it's like surreal to me. It's just funny, the world of LinkedIn, people, it's such an alternate universe. Like the past pops up, the future, the this, the that. It's a total, it's Alice in Wonderland. Yeah, definitely. And I wish you tremendous hatzlacha. I definitely want to help get the word out about this incredible film. I think it's an instant classic, in my opinion. It's going to be something that all Jewish children of all ages, should check out. And God willing, you have a lot of hatzlacha.
Amen. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.